us are able to unite. And we stop calling ourselves minorities. When we know that every continent on earth is composed of more people who are like us than that are not like us. They know that if we are able to unite under one banner, one God, that there's systems, the linear systems that they have that oppress people, that hold people down, that put usury and riba high on the priority list, and they concentrate all the wealth in one class of people, and they take all the power from the other people, and they keep their foot on the neck of so many people. If all of those people looked around and said, wait, we're not other, we're not different, we're all the same. We all believe in the same God, we're on the same mission. They know that that would crumble their house of cards. So when we look to why this Muslim ban? Why these different things? Why are they trying to hold us down? We shouldn't look any further than what Brother Malcolm told us right here. They know that if we are to unite under one banner, that it would end capitalism, it would end oppression, it would end tyranny, it would crumble this empire. So again, this is the message of Islam. This is the message that has been true from the beginning to the civil rights movement till right now. I wanted to focus on this part because I wanted to focus on Islam as a basis for activism, being active. We're not a group that can just profess something and that's it. The first pillar is the kalima. Every other pillar is one of action, doing. You proclaim and then you do. You proclaim and then you prove. It's not enough to say I believe. It's not enough to say I love something. If you believe something, you show that you believe it. If you love someone, you show that you love them. If you love a community, if you love an ummah, a family, you show that. You don't just say it every now and then. You don't just like their post on Facebook. You tell them, you embrace them. You give them a genuine smile. You give them a genuine embrace. That's how we show love to each other. This is the example of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's the example of every prophet that has come under La ilaha illallah. Right? So we wanted to focus on Islam as a basis for activism because we need it, not only in this community, but in this city, in this state, in this country, in this world right now. There's so many people turning a blind eye to the atrocities. And that's one of the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us the shaitan will do. He makes you, desensitizes you. He desensitizes you to the ills that are going on around you. Whereas the prophets and the people who we follow, the people whose models we're trying to establish in our own right, they were always the ones who spoke out against it. We all know the hadith. If you see some evil, if you see something wrong, then you change it with your hand. If you can't change it with your hand, then you speak out against it. And if you can't speak out against it, then you hate it in your heart. But know that simply hating it in your heart is the lowest form. Right? So we'll start with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prior to receiving revelation, prior to becoming Nabiullah, he was known as Al-Amin. He was known as Ahmed, someone who's praiseworthy, somebody who is trustworthy. He already had a taqween. He already had an upright manner. He was a man of his word. So when he came with revelation, it wasn't hard for people who weren't programmed, people who had open minds to understand that makes sense. He's a person who has done what he said he was going to do every time. He's honored his commitments every time. He's been truthful every time. So why would all of a sudden he become this great liar? For the ones who would think, who didn't have ulterior motives to go against him, right? So the ayat that I read is in Surah An-Nisa, ayat number 135. And the meaning of it is believers, be upholders of justice and bearers of witness to truth for the sake of Allah. Even though it may be either against yourselves or against your parents or kinsmen, or the rich or the poor, for Allah is more concerned with their well-being than you are. Do not then follow the lust of your heart, lest you swerve from justice. If you distort justice or decline to do justice, know that Allah is very aware, is well aware of all that you do. That's what the ayah says. So we know Surah An-Nisa is heavy. It's heavy. It's got a lot of direct orders for us as family, as community. We know that the basis of ummah is the same as ummi. So it's the womb. It's something that's cultivating, something that protects, right? So it's natural that Surah An-Nisa, the women, is going to be where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals a lot of these things. Reveals how we're supposed to act amongst each other. Man to man, woman to woman, man to woman, woman to man. They give these different decrees, these different rulings in this surah. So it's very heavy. We have to pay attention. So we're talking about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it's telling him to uphold justice, to be active in upholding justice, even if it disappoints the people who are from your ummah, the people who you came from. There are people who will distort some hadith, and they'll say that, oh, you can never go against your leadership. You can never go against the status quo. But just look at the seerah. Look at what Rasulullah had to face. He was tasked with going against his uncles, his cousins, his brothers, people who gave him everything that he knew. He didn't question it, he just did it. You know, if the powers that be become corrupt, we see that in our nation's capital right now. We can't just take sides based on what colors we wear, what we pledge allegiance to. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us right here that we have to take sides with the truth. We have to stand with justice. Who cares about your party line? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us here that we have to be willing to go against everything, to lose everything in the face of tyranny and oppression. Right? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he witnessed, he was truth, he was a witness to truth against his kinsmen. Some of his greatest enemies were also, they shared blood with him. One of the reasons they hated him because, as we know, Surah 15 refers to Mecca as Balad al-Amin, Had al-Balad al-Amin, city of security. And it was called the city of security because it was a place that was safe for the traders to come to, and they didn't have to worry about any clashes with other tribes. They were protected because the number one thing that they were concerned about was the marketplace. The number one thing they were concerned about was their wealth, their own riches. One of the primary items that they were selling was their idols. We're still in the business of selling idols in this country, in this day. It's just came in different forms. But he was the one who said, these idols, they're not doing anything for you. In the tradition of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. These idols are doing nothing for you. There's only one God, and it's the one who made these idols. It's the one who made you and I. So they didn't like that because he disturbed business. You got people traveling from all over the place. They want to buy their idols, and then you got this guy, beautiful person, beautiful, very articulate person, and he's telling you, you know what, the thing that you came here for, forget about that. That's not right. It takes some gumption. It takes heart, it takes some spirit in order to do that, especially when you don't have thousands at your back, when you don't have millions at your back, and you're going against the status quo, you're going against the establishment. And that's what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did. He didn't follow the lust of his heart. When he became more formidable, they started to bribe him. Muhammad, what is it going to take for us to get you to stop doing this stuff? We'll give you all the titles. We'll give you the throne. We'll give you gold. We'll give you all these different things. All the most beautiful women. You just take your pick. Just stop doing this. And like the surah, like the ayat said, he didn't follow the lust in his heart. He had an outstanding character from the beginning. He continued having an outstanding character. He lived modestly. He could have had anything he wanted. He was the commander of a great army at one point. He was the leader of a nation that spanned beyond borders. But he still lived very modestly. He lived below his means, below his capabilities. He was a devoted family man. It's hard to find any men who are great who didn't have a wife in history, Muslim or non-Muslim, right? He had one wife. She helped him tremendously. She encouraged him tremendously. She balanced him out. She encouraged him during the times where he was low, during the years of sadness. Then he had another one, right? So this idea that we can build this model community, that we can do anything with just men, is beyond me. I don't understand it. It's not from the Sunnah. We don't have the input of our sisters. We don't have our sisters' backs. We don't have their support. If we don't support them. That was the example of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he was a staunch advocate for truth and for justice. No matter what, no matter who was against, he stayed on that path. For truth and for justice. And he was merciful. So even when he go against his kinsmen, and when he went to Taif, and they stoned him, and then the narration says that he had to press the blood into his shoes because he knew that if the blood of the prophet touched the soil, that those people would be destroyed. And he had enough compassion for those people to make sure that his blood didn't touch the ground. That's the kind of compassion, that's the kind of truthfulness that he had. When he said he loved his people, you show that you love your people. Again. So then we come forward and we wanted to look at a more of a contemporary example. And you know, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam stands alone. He's the seal of the prophets. We know that. But there are still people who carry the message and who embody the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Since him, there have been many. Today, remember we said we were talking about Malik al-Shabazz. When you look at his name, it actually means like king or like ruler, or Malik means like king, leader of the royal. Like Shabazz is like royal. But we also know that the tribe of Shabazz is like this lost tribe. So when you look at his name, he's saying that he's the king, the leader of a lost tribe, which is very appropriate when you think about it. Because our tribe, us African Americans at least, we were lost. We didn't know where we were from. We can't tell you where our ancestors are from. We don't know what our traditions were. We don't know what language we spoke. Our history, as far as we know, goes back to our great-grandfather, maybe. So we're brand new. We're lost. We didn't know where we came from. And it's not to make excuses or anything. It's just a fact. So to have this person come and embody some of the same things as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was very powerful, very important for us. Again, the ayah, it said, believers, be upholders of justice and bearers of witness to truth for the sake of Allah, even though it may be either against yourselves or against your parents and kinsmen or the rich or the poor. For Allah is more concerned with their well-being than you are. Do not then follow the lust of your heart, lest you swerve from justice. If you distort justice or decline to do justice, know that Allah is well aware of all that you do. So again, he was a witness to truth against his kinsmen. Twice. Right? He grew up one way, and then he learned, he got a glimpse of the truth, right? He was pulled toward Islam. He was pulled toward Islam. But then it came a time where he noticed something that wasn't right with where he was. And at the very moment that it became clear that it wasn't right, he began to speak out against that. Because his allegiance was to the truth. His allegiance was to justice. It wasn't to any one man, any one movement. His allegiance was to God, and it was to the truth. So as soon as he became clear, then he didn't have any problem going against his own kinsmen, like it says in the Quran here. He was going against the rich. He was going against the United States. Many people don't realize that he was filing a case against the United States of America at the United Nations. He was going up against the entire country, the entire establishment. So he was going against the rich. He was disturbing a good thing on many fronts. Many people who were with the nonviolent aspect of the movement, they thought that he was disturbing the progress that they were making. They thought that he was a thorn in the side of that, because he simply said, don't let anybody just keep smacking you in the face. You have to defend yourself. Now, if that disturbs anybody, then that ain't your tribe. To tell somebody that don't let anybody beat you down, don't let anybody stick dogs in you and not fight back, don't let anybody spray water and assault you that way. So he was disturbing things that were considered a good thing. Oh, they're making progress. They're getting bills paid. They're getting bills passed. This sort of thing. So he was a perfect example of what this ayah is talking about. An outstanding character. The FBI was spying on him, and they were spying on other civil rights leaders, and they said that he was a saint compared to these other leaders because he had the tough lean. He wasn't just living one way in person, in public light, and then going and doing something else that's heinous behind closed doors. He was who he was, and he stayed on that path the entire time. When people were looking and people were not looking. And of course, he was a devoted family man. So I'm not a scholar, I'm not a sheikh, I'm not an imam, I'm not a hafiz, mufti, none of that. I'm just a student, and I try to share what I'm learning. There's a debate between some scholars about whether, the difference between Rasul and Nabi. The difference between Rasul, which technically just means messenger, and Nabi means prophet. So in the Quran it says that Rasulullah is the seal of the Nabiyin, right? So it's the prophets. But there's other scholars who say that he's not saying that there was the end of messengers, like there were still messengers to come. Allahu A'lam, I don't know. But if there are still messengers. There were still messengers to come. Malcolm X would have been a great example of what that would be. Somebody who's carrying the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who's carrying the message of La ilaha illallah and showing it in action for the entire world to see. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي. Rasulullah said, strive always to excel in virtue and truth. Strive always to excel in virtue and truth. This could be looked at as like a summary of the ayat that we just were reading from. And then Hajj bin Shabbat said, I'm for truth, no matter who tells it. I'm for justice, no matter who it is for or against. I'm a human being, first and foremost, and as such, I'm for whoever and whatever benefits humanity as a whole. These can both be looked at as translations or explanations of the ayat that we read in Surah An-Nisa. So in the second half, we're supposed to talk about what's going on in our ummah, what's going on in our community, and how these words, how these examples affect us, right? So for us, we have to understand that the word strive is always a part of the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like Iman is an action. Iman is an active thing, and we're not just proclaiming, we're actually doing. The Sahaba were not complacent. They weren't lazy people. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not lazy. You don't accomplish everything that he accomplished in 23 years by being complacent, or being lazy, or being disorganized, or being disheartened, by giving up on things, right? So we need to be like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We need to be like Malcolm X, and be conscious of our time here. Be conscious that it's limited. We need to be active. We can say, oh, I love the Masjid, I love Masjid movement, I love the Muslim community there. But if you're only here once a week for an hour, how much do we really love it? You want to grow a flower, you only water it once a week, you can't be upset if the flower doesn't grow. The flower dies. Somebody else takes the flower and starts to grow it for you. And then is it your flower? So this is the example. When we look at great men, we look at great civilizations, we need to be trying to understand the underlying message. We get caught up sometimes in the mundane. Oh, was his beard this long, or was it this color, or did he do this, or did he say it this way? But we're doing it from a computer screen, or we're doing it from home, or we're doing it away from the ummah. Because the main thing is that the community is supposed to come together around this theme. It's supposed to be something that we hold each other accountable with. Because again, actions reveal character more than words. We can say whatever we want to say, and then we can disappear, and then there's no accountability. But if we really truly want to grow this community, we need to commit ourselves to being here first and foremost. The blueprint for being here is already prescribed. The salah, 5 times a day. Rasulullah said, Fajr and Isha is hardest on the hypocrites. So you can say all you want, hey, I'm down, I'm doing this, but we need to see you. I'm speaking to myself first, trust me. You know, everybody made New Year's resolutions last month. Everybody want to do more push-ups. They want to look better, they want to be better. But are we basing that around our salat? Are we basing that around our ibadah? Right? Again, actions reveal character, not words. Just recently, we've been making a strong push to establish salat. And it's been doing good, alhamdulillah. We got to thank the brothers who put the effort in to reach out and grab people. And if you see it, you see brothers from all over the world. Mali, you know, Americans, Bangladesh, Somali, you know, all over the place. And you know it's a great thing when you are getting dressed in the morning and you think about your socks, right? Because it's like, man, my brother, he gonna know I had these socks on yesterday when he put on some different socks. You know what I mean? That's a good problem to have. And be like, let me make sure that my brother doesn't, you know, mess with me about my socks. You know what I mean? That means that you're getting closer with somebody, that you started to be tight. You started to become a unit. Rasulullah said that you don't know a person until you've prayed with them, you've done business, you've traveled with that person. Right? So we can't be an ummah, we can't be a unit if we don't know each other. We can't really know each other if we don't trust in each other's habits. If we don't know that this brother is solid because he's demonstrating that he's solid. He's doing the work, he's showing up. His children are coming. This woman, you know, is steadfast in her belief, right? So there's an importance for activities for children, making sure that this deen is beautiful to them. For when they go and they grow up, there's something that they yearn for, that they want to come back to. I can't stress that enough. Alhamdulillah, Allah allowed me to be born Muslim. But if there were 60 of us when I grew up, born Muslim in the community, there might be 5 now still practicing, active in the Masjid, raising Muslim families. So if we want to avoid the same missteps, if we want to build on the great that our predecessors did, that the pioneers did, we have to emphasize bringing our children to the masjid, having different events. When you see something being done, support it. Because there's no election, there's no one person, there's no magic pill, there's no secret recipe for just automatically everything changing. The person you're looking for to come in and save the community is yourself. You know? Supporting it with your presence, supporting it by talking about it, by inviting other people. You can't make it, dig a little bit deeper. In your pocket, these things cost money. Let's just be real. You've got to be able to come together as a community and say, I feel bad if I'm not able to make it, but let me see what else I can do to further the mission of this community. If we follow the example of Rasulullah or the example of Malcolm, we speak truth to power, we back it up with word. We back it up with our actions. You can't be scared. So many times if I've been in a battle based on what I believe to be true, my hawk, right? And then people will come up to you and they'll tell you, real quiet, they'll whisper to you, I mean, I support you, man. I hope you're successful. You know what I mean? But then when it's time to say it in front of everybody, they just hoping that you get that you win. You know what I mean? So we gotta have taqween. We gotta be upright. You can't be afraid to say what is right and what's wrong. And as the young people, as we grow into leadership, we have to know that as well. That we're not always going to be right. We're going to make some mistakes too. We have to know that people are going to come up to us and they're going to critique our jobs, our performance as leaders. And we can't take that personally. We can't mean that we can't use that as a means to break our community up. Because we need our pioneers lockstep with the people who are going to be putting in the effort for the next 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, if this is going to be a successful endeavor. Remember, we're the Ummah of Muhammad. We're carrying that torch. No matter how much discord we might have with one another, we still fall under the same banner. We still have the same mission. So we've got to be pragmatic. We've got to have a wide lens, a wide scope. And for the people who are older and who are teaching the youth, being patient with these people, with these youth, man. These people out here facing a lot. They're being inundated from all areas, being attacked. There's a war going on for the mind of the youth. If we don't use the minds of the youth, there's plenty of entities on the outside that are more than happy to take over their minds and use them for whatever. So we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. The baby talked to us the wrong way. Kicking the baby out the house doesn't work. We need all hands on deck. I just wrote down a few more things and inshallah we'll wrap up. I'm making a commitment, a pledge to myself to always get out of here at a reasonable time. And I hope the other khatibs follow suit. I think the Prophet, he didn't just speak forever and ever and ever. He would wrap it up after he made his point. And I think that has a lot to do with the morale of the community too. They don't feel like they're being held hostage. You know what I mean? There's a lot of other things going on in the community that you can learn and you can teach and you can lecture and go longer. But inshallah, we'll be able to regulate timeliness, inshallah. But I was just thinking, like, how many people do we have in our midst that are like Detroit Red, like how Malcolm was before, right? And they don't even try to connect with Islam or any kind of religious community, because when they come to the religious communities and they come to the masjid, all they feel is judgment, insincerity. Like people who smile in their face, and then at the end of the day, they're like, you don't feel the love. How many people are coming home from doing, bids and all that sort of thing and being made to feel other, being made to feel like outsiders? How are we welcoming them? What plans do we have? What programs do we have to make sure that what they did learn when they were inside gets expounded upon and they're able to see more of the beauty of Islam now that they're free? You've got to have that sort of stuff ready, and that costs. The other day, the Imam and I, we were asked to wash a brother who had passed, and nobody knew. His family wasn't here. I mean, we'd seen him, but he wasn't, we hadn't seen him in a long time. His only son was all the way across overseas. And when it was time to wash the brother, we had to go to the store and buy shrouds, and we had to buy, oil and all this kind of stuff. Whereas a community, like, we should have this stuff ready, available. Like janazah, it's gonna happen. We know we're all gonna die. We gotta have that stuff ready. We need to be conducting more nikah in here. A lot of these brothers walking around here playing around with marriage and all want to be engaged for a year, 2 years, 3 years. That's not from the Sunnah. If you know that's her, just go get it. We'll figure out the rest later. Lock it down. Make sure that your actions are pure. Make sure that if you die today, you're in good standing. Another thing that Brother Malcolm reminded us of is that we're not guaranteed 63 years. We're not guaranteed 70 years. A lot of times I hear that I'm the youth, right? And people bring up Malcolm. I'm like, he died when he was my age, right? He was fighting against oppressors early, when he was, as soon as he got out, 27 to like 38. We're not guaranteed anything. A lot of these young boys are still heavy-hearted right now because Kobe Bryant passed. 41 years old. His daughter was 13. And some of us will shun that. Will dismiss that. Oh, you can't be sad about some Kaffir basketball player. It's like, no. This person symbolized something to them. He might have helped them get through something good, something important. He helped inspire them in some kind of way. Don't dismiss their inspiration. Right? There's nothing in Islam, there's nothing in the Sunnah of Rasulullah that you dismiss death or that you don't mourn people just because they're not Muslim. That's not Islam. There's plenty of hadith. Look it up. I want to give it to you. When there was a funeral passing from a Jew, and they asked him why he was paying homage to him. And he said, was he not a human? So if these children are going through these things, use that as an opportunity to talk to them about death. Talk to them about your death, because you will die. Talk to them about what was it about him that inspired you so much. Find somebody else who you can show this person had these same qualities. But we don't dismiss somebody's grief. And we use that as an example of, hey, you know what? This is going to happen to all of us. But the question is, will we be ready when it does? Oh Allah, we ask for strength in our struggle against our nafs. Oh Allah, please remove anything in our lives that is taking us further from you. Oh Allah, make this day be a milestone in our path to Jannah. Allah, give us the courage and discipline of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and al-Hajj Manik al-Shabazz in these trying times. We ask that you protect our children each day that we send them into the world. We ask that you accept their every prayer. We ask that you accept our intentions and eliminate our vices before we pass away. Oh Allah, forgive those who pass before eliminating their vices. We ask that you show mercy on those who are being oppressed around the world. Oh Allah, give guidance to those oppressors around the world. Oh Allah, grow the number of righteous Muslims. Oh Allah, may we all have the spirit of Ibrahim as we destroy the idols in our lives. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنه وفي الاخره حسنه وقنا عذاب النار.